Welcome back. Today we continue our coverage of the race for Georgia's Secretary of State, the office that oversees elections, voter registration, and key business services across the state of Georgia. One of the candidates is Vernon-Jones, a former Democratic state representative and former DeKalb County CEO who later switched parties and became a vocal supporter of President Donald Trump. Jones says that restoring trust in Georgia's elections is the central focus of his campaign. And today we are sitting down with Jones to discuss his views on election security, voter access, and how he would handle one of the most scrutinized offices in this government. So welcome, Jones. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with this, right? The Secretary of State's office oversees elections, business filings, and professional licensing, and voters often focus on elections, but the office has a broad reach. What specific changes would you prioritize in the first year if elected, and how would you measure the success?
Well, first of all, I appreciate being here, and I want to say to all the people from Bibb County, Macon, surrounding areas, Jones County, and Houston County, Middle Georgia is so important to this state. So goes Middle Georgia, so goes the state, as some would say. But you know, let's be clear, election integrity has been shattered by many voters, and the responsibility of the Secretary of State's office is to make sure that there is a free, fair, and transparent election. And with that cloud that's hanging over Georgia right now, going back to 2020, we're not trying to relive 2020, but we want to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And so in doing so, restoring public trust is very important. There are many who feel that as though we should go back to the paper ballot. That is something we really going to have to entertain. People felt more comfortable with it. It was a better way to audit versus auditing an image. You're auditing an actual ballot. That is a good thing. But more importantly, when you look at the number of irregularities where there were tabulators that were not signed off by poll workers, which should have been signed off by poll workers, where you look where there's a drop-off box that was on private property when it should have been, according to the state rules and regulations, on government property. There are a number of instances where one particular candidate was running for office, came in last place out of 4 people. They knew something was wrong because they voted for themselves. And so after a recount, this person went from last place to winning the race outright. And so there are a number of irregularities, and people don't want to feel as though that they're going to be prosecuted if they hold election officials accountable. So I want to have an open door. I want to make sure that people really feel comfortable with this election and going forward. And so restoring that's going to require a lot of hard work, but that's why I'm up for the task. My background, my experience, I've had to be the chief executive of a very large county. I managed about 7,000 employees, about a $3 billion budget. In contrast, the Secretary of State's office is about $45 million with about 345 employees. But that job is a chief administrator. I've been a chief administrator. I know the legislature. I've served 12 years in the House of Representatives. That experience will help me because many things to fix that office and restore public trust is going to require executive order, but other things to address issues are going to require legislative remedies. And so my background and my experience, I believe day one we can hit the ground running and start right then holding more open sessions, answering people's questions, not hiding anything, or not claiming it's a perfect election. So those things are important to voters, and that's where I want to come in and make sure they feel that that office is working for them.
Got you. Okay. And then also talking about the Georgia's 2020 presidential election, right? Even multiple audits, recounts, and court rulings that upheld the results. As Secretary of State, would you publicly certify future election results even if your preferred candidate loses? And under what circumstances, if any, would you refuse to do so?
You know, I've been a state lawmaker. The law is the law. And that's the problem now, because there were things that were carried out during the 2020 election process that was not in accordance with the law. For example, too, when you look at the settlement agreement between Raffensperger, Gabe Sterling, and Stacey Abrams, and that settlement agreement, it changed election laws. The state constitution is very clear that the legislature, and only the legislature, can change state laws. The drop-off boxes, that was not a part of state law. The executive branch of government took that initiative, initiative to carry out the drop boxes. It was not approved through the Georgia General Assembly. That's why in 2021, they came back and codified it into law. There were some constitutional questions here. So I am here to certify whatever election there is in accordance with the law. No more and no less. And when you deviate from that, it creates the dark cloud that you've seen happen now. So it's not about who get elected, it's about whomever gets elected, that those ballots were appropriately counted, they were accurately counted, and the people feel as though that the results stand on their own. Now, you mentioned about there were several court rulings. Most of those court rulings, if not all of them, it was because those cases, the parties involved did not have legal standing. So many of those cases were never litigated. But I'll come back to just recently, 315,000 ballots that were part of tabulators that should have been signed off by the election supervisor and poll workers, and they were not. But that's in accordance with the law. No, we have a problem there. We can't allow that to happen. And so let's follow the law. And my job is to follow the law and just do what is right, and not be afraid when people ask questions to hide information or deny, as opposed to say, well, wait a minute, let me make sure that we did follow the law. And if we did do something that was out of line with the law, admit it. Don't cover it up. And we've seen a lot of cover-ups, and people are just very concerned about it. And we just cannot tolerate that in our elections in Georgia. We're not Cuba. We're not Venezuela. We're the United States of America. We go around the world telling everyone else how to hold elections, and then we're not doing it right ourselves. No, that's unacceptable.
Okay. And then last but not least, I know you have been a vocal supporter of President Donald Trump. Have you asked for his endorsement for this office? And if so, has he given it to you?
So let me say this. I am a vocal opponent of conservative values. I'm a vocal, I'm not a vocal opponent, but I'm a vocal supportive of conservative values. I'm a vocal supporter of America First. I'm a vocal supporter of free, fair, and transparent elections. There are many things that I support the president on. I believe in America First, creating jobs here. I believe in securing the border. I also believe that, you know, free enterprise, small businesses, helping them generate more and more jobs, because that's where most of our jobs come from, small businesses. So a lot of his initiatives I do agree with. Now, the president, I would love to have the president's support. I'm sure at the appropriate time the president's going to make his endorsement known. But what's important to me is to get the endorsement of the people here in Middle Georgia. As I mentioned, Houston County, Jones County, Bibb County, and the surrounding areas. Georgia's endorsement is what I appreciate and that I seek first, but would love to have the president's support. The president knows that I am as solid as Stone Mountain, that I work hard. He know about my track record. Look, Democrats and Republicans know about my track record. A solid record of accomplishments, creating jobs. I ran a very large police department. I ran a very large watershed management department. I ran about 46 different agencies of government. I know how to run a government. I know how to cut taxes. I know how to create an environment where people can have safe communities and economic opportunities. That's my background, that's my experience. But I also know, and having overseen local elections, how elections should go. And voter suppression many times is a result of mismanagement, where you don't have enough poll workers, they aren't properly trained, you didn't test the machines out and make sure they were working well in advance. And all of those things contribute to a much more efficient, much more effective elections. And so I am looking for, I'm here right now meeting with civic leaders, elected officials, Gen Z. I like the Gen Z. They're voting. They're excited about my campaign. So those are the folks I'm seeking their endorsement from. Here at home first. Love the president's endorsement, Mr. President. Wherever you are, I'd love to have your endorsement. I know we'll be talking about it soon, but I'm here in Middle Georgia. Middle Georgia is important to me. The people here are important to me, and they vote, and their vote should count.
Got you. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Vernon-Jones, for sitting down with us. And guys, the primary election is happening on May 19th, and the general election will take place on November 3rd. Voters are encouraged to make sure that they're registered and to familiarize themselves with all the candidates that are running before heading to the polls. We'll continue bringing you guys interviews with the candidates from both parties as Georgia decides who should oversee elections and key business services across the state. For more information, head over to our website at 41NBC.com. We'll be right back.